Hi guys! Yesterday I asked you on Instagram and here on YouTube to ask me questions for this Q&A video. I do get a lot of kind of frequently asked questions coming at me over and over again. So I thought I would go through some of them. I received so many, both on Instagram and on YouTube. It was crazy. So I'll have to narrow it down to the kind of 10, maybe 15 of the questions that I get most of the time. And I wanted to start with Instagram because the space on Instagram for the question is really concise, unlike the questions I received on YouTube, which was like poems. So we'll start with Instagram. I'll jump straight into it. If you don't know me, I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Lily and my family and I have moved to Calgary from the UK over 2 years ago, and I still get a lot of questions about immigration, but I wanted to tell you that that part is way behind us. We don't feel like immigrants anymore. I don't think we ever did, actually. Coming from the UK to Canada, there is not that much of a difference. Everybody speaks English. The prices are approximately the same. The way that things work are approximately the same. So we didn't really feel like we were immigrants, or like getting used to a lot of things. It was kind of smooth, so the immigration part is well behind us now. So we have settled here. We're doing fine. Let's get into the questions. Is Calgary a good place to raise kids? Well, we're doing it. It's fine. I don't know. I can't really compare it to other places. It's pretty much the same as in the UK, in my opinion. It's just, I think the outdoor culture is more like active here. So the kids are encouraged to get out of the house a lot. Doesn't matter what the weather is like. For example, right now it's -24 outside, and Ollie took the girls to Telus Spark, which is like a kids' science museum. So we're not really afraid of that kind of weather, as long as we can drive from point A to point B and the car doesn't break down. We're all good. When do you plan on coming to Edmonton? If yes, can you do a meet and greet? No current plans to go to Edmonton, I'm sorry. And with meet and greet, I don't know. Do people actually know who I am? I don't know. That feels so strange to organize a meet and greet for a YouTuber with like 10K followers. I don't know. Seems a bit... I don't know. Let me know what you think. What are your goals for 2020? I don't know. I've set a lot of goals for myself for 2019, like professionally. I wanted to grow my channel and grow my Instagram and to work with some brands that I really look up to. And it all kind of happened. So 50% of my goals for 2019 came to life. And it was all great, and 50% didn't even matter 3 months into the year. So for this year, my goal is to be more chill. I feel like I became a very, very stressed and anxious person in 2019 for like the tiniest reasons. I would set off like with my anxiety, and it's still ongoing, and I just want to be more relaxed and more chill and more centered and more grounded. So I just don't want to put for the little things to set me off so quickly. And I just want to kind of more sit back and relax for this year. So I don't know, this could probably be my only goal, to just like work on myself and how I feel. So yeah. Are you an introvert or an extrovert? I am like 100% extrovert. I love people. I crave being around people. Staying home alone is never like really my goal. However, if you're a parent of like toddlers and small kids, you know that at the end of the day, being alone in a quiet room is all you want. So when Ollie finishes work and he wants to talk to me at the end of his day, I'm like, I'm out of here. I don't want to talk about anything. Let's just stop. And I'm gonna go to a bedroom and I'm gonna just watch Netflix in my pajamas for the rest of the day. I don't want to talk. So I'm kind of embracing my introverted self a little bit as well. Next question. How did you build up your YouTube channel to the success that it is today? Keep up the great work. Thank you. I don't think my channel is that successful. I'm only on 10K right now, and for some reason, like the first year, the growth was really impressive for me. I grew from like 100 subscribers to over 5,000 subscribers, and last year in 2019 it kind of really slowed down. I don't know if that's related to that new Copper Kids content thing that's going on right now, but I do have some kids content on my channel, and maybe if I mark my video, if I title my video as like a road trip with kids, maybe that puts me like down in rankings, so my videos don't show up that much. But I found my growth being pretty slow last year. We'll see what happens this year. When you first moved, did you contact real estate agents before landing to organize rental viewings? It was so long ago. It was like 2 years ago, and it's not something that I go back to thinking over and over again. I don't think we contacted any real estate agents before we moved. We rented an Airbnb for the first 3 weeks, and I think after we got to Calgary and stayed at our Airbnb, Ollie called around different lending agents, and we went to visit a few places. Can you describe your life in Calgary as an expat in just one word? I don't know how I could describe it in one word. Even though I position myself as an expat on like my channel and my Instagram, I don't really feel like an expat. So going back to what I said at the beginning of the video, I don't know. I wouldn't say that it's like easy and simple, or I feel like I'm home forever. I just don't feel like different. It's fine. Before you went, did Ollie have a job secured or a job offer at least? I spoke to that again, like when we were just getting ready to move. Ollie works for an international company, and when we got invitation to apply through the Express Entry program, he went to his managers and said, could I do the same job, same project with the same team, just from a different location? And they said yes. So they internally did some changes for him, and here we are. Is public elementary and secondary school better in Alberta than in England? If you watch my channel and if you follow me on Instagram, you know that my kids are only 4 and 2. I have no experience with elementary and secondary schools in Canada, let alone in England, so I can't really compare. I suggest maybe you could reach out to people with older kids to ask if that's interesting. That's an interesting topic for you, but unfortunately I don't know anything about that. Are your parents trying to come to Canada with you? As in like to come for a visit or to live? Not to live. Unfortunately my dad passed away a few years ago, and my mom is still in Ukraine, and she has her whole life there. She has a job, she has friends, she has a place to live, she knows all the shops and everything. So I think for me to ask my mom to move here, it would be very inconsiderate. If she wants to, of course, we will look into it and see how we could make it happen, but I don't want to ask my mom to drop everything and come and live with us. But to visit, of course, we would like for her to visit. Okay, how are the girls' personalities similar and how are they different? That's a cool question. Both girls are very social. They're not introverted, they're like me, extroverted, and I don't really see that many traits, like Ollie's traits in them just yet, but I see a lot of mine. So Anais is like very fiery with the way she reacts. I know she's a toddler and toddlers are all like this, but she is particularly like, I can see how she reacts is how I sometimes would react. And it's the same for Tessa, but in the opposite way. So even though she's very social, she is very conscious of how she might be offending somebody, or how would people perceive her. And that's something that I really don't like about myself. I want to build up my confidence to the point that I don't really care how people think about me, because when like for example, I have a really good evening with friends and then I come back home and I start replaying things in my head and I'm like, oh my God, I probably offended somebody, or oh my God, what will they think about me saying that? And that's something that I don't want to be doing, and I don't want for Tessa to be the same way. So I need to look into how to actually keep building her confidence up every day. She's pretty sensitive, but it really makes me happy that they're so social and outgoing, that it's something that I see in myself as well. How is the actual job market in Calgary? What jobs are so in demand right now? I don't know. I'm not the right person to ask this question. I don't keep up with the job market developments. It's not something that in particularly is of interest for me. So I don't know. Look online. Sorry. So these are all the questions, or some of the questions that I received on Instagram. Let's take a look on YouTube. I will have to try and figure out how to read these questions on YouTube because they're so big and long. So there are a lot of people from Australia that reach out to me. There was one question from a person who lives in Australia thinking about moving to Canada again. Knowing what you know of Australia, which one of two countries would your family prefer to live in terms of quality of life? I don't know anything about Australia apart from the fact that it's really far and it's very expensive. That's what we have found out during our research when we decided between Canada and Australia. Again, in our particular case, with Ollie being French, we wanted for the girls to be able to learn French, and Canada is a great place for that. I don't know if you guys have any French exposure in Australia, probably not. So we picked Canada for Ollie's jobs as well. He's in software engineering. So yeah, Canada sounded like a better choice for us. Okay, how is the weather in Calgary typically? There is no typical about the weather in Calgary. We all know that it's very cold in winter, but it's not always cold in winter because in Calgary we have Chinooks that warm up our days within like 24 hours from -20 to like 10 degrees plus. Same with the summers. You would think when read on Wikipedia that Calgary is one of the sunniest large cities in Canada. Last summer sucked. It was so grey and rainy for the whole of June and half of July. It was windy. It was pretty rubbish. So you never know what you're gonna have. Probably the only kind of guarantee, although it didn't happen last year, is that you will have a white Christmas. So that's pretty magical. And then January and February are so cold that you just stay home all the time. But that's okay as well. There is like 500,000 questions. Do you know a nice neighborhood, but not downtown, but not expensive? I don't know. It all depends on what you want. If you want like an apartment, then maybe it's best to live closer to downtown. If you want a condo, there are some other areas. If you want a large house, there are suburbs. I don't know what your personal preferences are. And to be fair, I don't really know every area in Calgary that well. Because Calgary is so big, you kind of get settled in one area. You get to know what you need to know in that area, that you don't need to travel for 40 minutes to get to some other place. So I can't suggest anything. It all depends on you. Another person moving from Australia to Calgary, and just to sum up what the question is about them leaving their families and close ones, moving like halfway across the world. Assuming that you and your husband are close with your respective families, we are. How have you dealt with the geographical distance that separates you from your families? what have been the challenges, and how have you addressed them. Skype, I don't know, like FaceTime, those kind of things. And we have kind of a large house with a bit of an excess space. So if we can have our families over, it's wonderful. We just had the first summer we lived in this house, we had 9 people at the same time in our house, and it was just wonderful to show Canada to them. And then all of us went to France last year for a family wedding, which was also so wonderful. So we're trying to kind of see them maybe once a year, but it's not easy now that Anais is over 2 and we have to pay for 4 seats on flights, and it's like over $4,000 just for the flights. So we can't afford traveling that much back and forth between Europe. So we're thinking, if it gets too hard, maybe one day we'll move closer back to Europe or something, but no immediate plans. For now, it's okay. Ollie's mum managed to come here in September, and she stayed here for a month, which was so nice. But again, Ollie's mum also has life back home, and she's needed there by Ollie's siblings and his nephews and nieces, so we can't possibly ask them to move with us. It was our decision, it's not their choice. Okay, do you have a favorite street or unique neighborhood in Calgary? I quite like Kensington, although I haven't been there in a long time. I like to know, what is the things that you haven't adapted to yet, or hard things for you and your family to still adjusting, if this makes sense. It does make sense. There was one thing that I wanted to tell you about for a while, and I don't know, I feel a bit strange talking about it, but I don't, like, Ollie and I don't really like the culture of credit cards that is so, like, overpowering here. Everybody's using credit cards, and so do we. But I don't think we used credit cards that often back in the UK. We only use credit cards for like big, large purchases or something a bit risky, because there is like added security that comes with credit card purchases. Whereas here, with every credit card almost, you can get like cash back if you use the credit card, or you get like air miles or some points that you collect and then spend on something. And for us, that is so frustrating, because we now have a whole bunch of credit cards with like anywhere between 1,000 and 2,500 credit limits on them, because we just don't want to bring the credit limit up, that we tend to use those credit cards, and then comes payday, we have to repay those credit cards, and then we're left with like peanuts on our bank account. So that's very frustrating. Like, we don't really feel like we have money, because once the money comes in, we just pay it off on all the kind of collected debt that we acquired over a month. So it's a little bit, I don't know, it's a bit depressing in my opinion. Like, we like to know how much money we have and not how much money we owe on our credit cards, if you see what I mean. But there is no other way. Each time we try to use our debit card, everybody's looking at us like, what are you doing? And but it shouldn't really stop us, right? But we also want the points, we also want the cash back and everything. So we started using credit cards, although we don't like to do that. And I don't like this culture of being in debt constantly. I don't know. What things you hate about Calgary? If you watch my channel, I tend to be kind of positive, and I don't like to talk about things that I don't like. I'd rather talk about things that I do like. But there is one thing that is just bothering me about Calgary, and there's nothing I can do about it, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. It's the migraines that you get with Chinooks, and it's just terrible. It just floors Ollie and I sometimes, strangely not at the same time. It's the worst thing ever, when you just can't even move your head. It hurts so much you can't walk because every single step just goes straight into your brain and it hurts so bad. It doesn't last long, but it happens very frequently. We're taking painkillers. Ollie figured out that coffee actually helps him. Maybe it brings like the blood pressure up or something. I don't know. So coffee helps him, even though he hates drinking coffee, but he started drinking coffee now. But yeah, this is what's happening. And again, nothing we can do about that. Let's see if we have anything else. Oh, we have a whole bunch of questions, but I'm gonna try and wrap things up. It's not really a question, but when are you coming to Quebec? When we are filthy rich, or when the prices for airfare go down, maybe, because traveling within Canada is so expensive. We're like, every time we look, oh, maybe we should fly to Vancouver, and we're like, no, we better drive that, because it's just crazy for 4 people to pay like that amount of money. Okay. Do you think the cost of living is higher in Canada or the UK? We'll make it the last question, if that's okay with you guys. I don't know. It depends on where you live. When we just moved from Southampton in Hampshire in the UK to Calgary, and Ollie and I would go grocery shopping, and we were like, how much for bananas? Oh my God, are tomatoes this expensive? The meat is expensive, and everything is kind of piling up, and then you just come out with like 5 things in your grocery basket and pay like $120 or something. But I spoke to a few people who used to live in London and now live in Calgary, and they think, oh my God, it's so much cheaper, especially like real estate. And yeah, I agree, real estate is probably cheaper here. But everything else, I don't know. I think it's a bit more expensive. And somehow the tax is, I don't know, like officially it's not higher. But for us, I don't know, somehow we end up with less money at the end of the month. I don't know how that happens. Maybe we have too many children. I don't know, too many expenses for kids. Or maybe it's groceries, or maybe it's bills. So I don't know, somehow we just kind of end up with a bit less money than what we had in the UK. But we had a smaller place, a lot smaller place. So now our mortgage is higher, now our property tax is higher. Property tax is pretty high here. So yeah, I don't know. If you compare life in like London and here, it's probably cheaper here. If you compare life in like smaller cities in the UK to here, it might be the same. Here might be more expensive. I don't know. It all depends what you're comparing things with. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap things up with this question. There's a lot more, and thank you so much for sending them all over. I unfortunately can't answer them all, or don't really want to, especially if it's like about politics and what does the city do about this or that. You can find a lot of answers to your questions on the City of Calgary website. I can link it down below. And I've worked on a few campaigns with the City of Calgary, but those campaigns were mostly for kind of spreading awareness about different things that the City of Calgary do. And I can link the latest video from the latest campaign that I did with the City of Calgary here, so you can check that out. The rest you can find on the City of Calgary website. I am very grateful to have you all here today. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for being here. Give this video a big like if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new here, and we'll see you all again next time.